about a year ago, I think it was like August 16th or so.
Sure.
I took a little segment seed. You know, that's how internet shows are made. You get the seeds, you put them into the ground. You water them, you do the fertilizer thing.
You're a big gardener, you can tell.
Put a lot of fertilizer on, I'll say that much.
A lot of crap.
Water it, and then you wait. And you wait. And then you come back and you revisit them. Well, now it's time to revisit those, because a year ago I made some bold predictions for the 2021 football season.
And some of them sprouted. The other ones are in the burn bin.
I made 5 of them, 5 high school football predictions and 5 college football predictions for the 2021 season. And now it's time to head back out to the garden, put on our overalls, get out your hoe, get out your rake, get out your spade, get out the
it looks in brain for any other gardening word that I know.
The growing stuff.
Love. You have to have love.
The compost. And let's go find out how I did on my 2021 predictions. We're going to start with the high school football ranks. Pickle, what was my first prediction?
You predicted that offenses will return to pre-2020, that meant pre-COVID levels of 28-plus points per game, and bring!
Ding! I did it! I did it. So you may remember we did a whole segment about how we thought the pandemic impacted offenses in 2020, or in 2020 and maybe 2021, or 2020 most certainly. That we thought we posited the idea that perhaps because teams had fewer practices together and offenses generally need to be in rhythm, that is a reason that we saw offenses dip below what has been a really pretty steady amount of points for the past 5 years, which is around 28 points a game. Sometimes it's like 27.9, other times like 28.3, but it's around 28 points per game. But back in 2020, we had a pretty severe drop all the way down to, I believe, 27.1 points per game, a full point per game fewer than the year before in 2019. Well, I'm happy to report that as predicted here on Texas Football Today by yours truly, I have to big myself up because I know what's coming. We did see a rebound, 28.1 points per game, and an offensive rebound back to the normal level. 28.1 points per game is actually more than we saw in 2019.
How about that? Wow.
By
So it
0.1 points. It is the same amount that we saw in 2016 and 2017. So I think it's fair to say that offense has definitely rebounded from a tough year in 2020. So I'm going to put the big green check mark right there. I want you to remember that big green check mark.
Let's humble this man with a... Your next one. There will be no first-time UIL state champions. That is not true.
That's not even not just not true.
There is quite a few. What, 3?
It's on the screen.
Oh.
4 of them.
Guess. Wow. Yeah.
4 of them. Katy, Payto, South Oak Cliff, Franklin, and Westbrook. Now here's the thing. Okay. I even said because I went back and watched this video. I even said when I was saying, I was like, I said, by saying this, I'm kind of going against something that we have in the magazine, which we had Franklin, the #1 team in 3A Division II.
Right.
So I was kind of like hedging my bet and saying, maybe if Franklin doesn't do it, like maybe Gunner gets them.
Right.
Then that could be right.
That's and then the one that Washington
that's the big miss. The big miss is I should have just stuck with Franklin. Katy, Payto, I am going to say it's fair to say they were a pretty big surprise.
Yes, and I wouldn't say in the latter half of the season they were, but heading into the season when you were making these predictions, yes, I would agree that was a surprise from that point.
South Oak Cliff was on our radar, but I would say that they still, because of just the history surrounding them and all that jazz, I think they are a pretty remarkable story.
Oh yeah, and I think that
magazine, they're a bit of a surprise.
Anyone who's not in that program, if they were to say like, oh yeah, there was never a doubt, I think that they're being dishonest.
Right. And then there's Westbrook. Now Westbrook is perhaps a bit of a miss only because they were they had a really good year in 2020. They had a really nice year. That was kind of the hop and the skip, and then Homer Matlock's squad had the big leap in 2021 all the way to a state championship game. Franklin's the big miss there, simply because I went against my better instincts. But there were 4 first-time champs. A full third of the UIL state champs were there, so that's a big miss for me. What was my next prediction? Oof.
A UIL 11-man running back will average 250 rushing yards per game. Now, your boy Ernest Davia from Poteet was close.
He was the closest.
But no cigar.
He was the closest. He averaged 236.6 yards per game. We had guys who were more or less on pace, but it's really I hate to say this, but if it's going to happen, because I've made this prediction, I think 3 years in a row now, and I'm probably going to stop. What you really need is you need a guy who is on a kind of bad team, but puts up big numbers. Because, for example, like the leading rusher in the state last year was Reuben Owens. But Reuben Owens played 13 games.
Right.
So his average was like 230, and he was playing increasingly more difficult games.
So you need someone to pop off for 10 weeks and not really make the playoff.
Marquise Collins, right? Marquise Collins ran for 2,800 yards, but he played in 15 or 16 games. So, and actually, you know what? I might have this wrong. Let me check one thing.
Well, see, and I was going to suggest and say, hey, I think that you should make this again because take Dalton Brooks, for example. He's not going to have to be sharing the snaps with his brother Doug Brooks.
Right.
But he fits that exact same mold of the likelihood of them playing until the last week of the season is quite high.
Right. I think that's the thing. And so that's really where it runs into, is that you have to have a really...
Because average is different than just
correct.
A great running back.
It's a really remarkable, it takes a genuinely remarkable season. But in the end, I was wrong. We did not have a guy run for 250 yards. 236.6 is the best we did with Ernest Avila at Poteet. So, wrong again. What's my next prediction?
Bring.
Yeah!
You got a green check because this one, Class 5A will beat Class 6A head-to-head, and Class 4A will beat Class 5A head-to-head. This is correct. 5A won a series versus 6A, 116-103, and 4A won over 5A, 87-65.
Yeah, so this is actually a relatively steady trend in Texas high school football. Smaller classifications tend to beat larger classifications, largely because whenever they schedule that, you're talking about pretty good smaller schools playing bigger teams. You do not see Duncanville. Well, actually, this is a bad example. But Duncanville is playing South Oak Cliff in week 1. But you don't see Duncanville or a really good 6A team playing a really bad 5A team, right? Things like that.
They would play, they might
play a 5A
team. Right,
they might play a 5A team, but it would be like a Longview or someone like that. With 4 and 4 and 5A is the same way. Now, there is a law of kind of diminishing returns at that point, that there is a gap, and generally speaking, I believe 4A tends to beat 3A as well, and then 3A beats 2A, generally speaking, because at that point, you're more or less looking for more local teams.
Size and depth, too, is that point, just too different.
There's a little bit of diminishing returns there, but I did get this one right. 5A beat 6A head-to-head, and 4A beat 5A head-to-head, actually relatively resoundingly as well. So, good job, Greg. Let's all remember that time I got something right. What's my final high school football prediction for 2021?
The 6A realignment cutoff will be 2,300 or above. You were actually still pretty far off on this one, I would say. Yeah, 75 students is pretty far off.
As far as realignment, that's a pretty big miss.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you got down to 25, I would have been impressed, but 75 is still a pretty lofty amount.
The bottom line is that I made this prediction back on August 16th, as you can see, more than 200 episodes ago. And for me, the biggest thing was we didn't have any snapshot numbers in. There were no snapshot numbers in. So I was kind of just saying, I think that the population of Texas has increased so much that we're going to see a 6A cutoff around 2,300. It obviously hasn't increased that much. But so the cutoff was at 22-25. But alas, I did not get that right. So I went 2-5 2-3 on my high school football predictions. That's poor. Now they are bold predictions.
Job, expert.
The point of them is to be bold, and so they were bold.
Yeah, that's true. And you're calling your own foul, which is commendable.
Exactly. So there you go. I went 2-3 on my bold predictions for 2021 high school football. But what about college football? How did I do in the college football ranks? I'm sure I did a lot better. Let's roll out with my college football predictions for 2021. No.
Texas will have a finalist for the Walter Payton, Harlan Hill, and how do you say that one?
GAGLARDI.
Oh yeah, duh. That's weird. I don't know if I've ever really looked at it typed out.
Yeah.
No, you were wrong.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I did get 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 out of 3. We had an FCS. So this is the Heisman for FCS Division II and Division III, respectively. In FCS, we did have a finalist. Cam Ward, the quarterback at Incarnate Word, was
who really turned on the Jets last year.
Absolutely. He was a Walter Payton Award finalist in the FCS ranks. At Division III, the GAGLARDI Trophy, that was Jefferson Fritz, kind of the do-it-all, versatile superstar for UMHB, the eventual national champions. He was a finalist for the GAGLARDI Award in Division III. Nailed that one. Harlan Hill, though, we came up empty in Division II. And I think part of it is the Lone Star Conference, which is where all of our Division II teams reside. They kind of all beat up on each other. Like Midwestern State won the conference, but they were left out of the playoff, for example. And then Angelo State made the playoffs, but they had 2 losses in conference, and then before they got hot. And so really we were kind of without one dominant force in Division II. And generally speaking, you have to have a really good team to get there. Mary Hardin Baylor, obviously, at the Division III ranks. And then Incarnate Word had an outstanding offense, which got Cam Ward on the Walter Payton finalist list. But no, I missed this one, called my shot, and came up empty there. So, unfortunately, that is a miss for me on my first bold college football prediction. What was my second prediction, though?
Bring.
Hey.
You got one. At least one Texas FBS team will win its conference. Well, you had two of them. Baylor winning the Big 12 and UTSA winning Conference USA.
Yeah, and it had been a minute since we had an outright conference champion in Texas. Really,
Big 12, it was Oklahoma and Oklahoma State running it for a couple
really
years
kind
there.
of passing it back and forth. Conference USA it had been since Houston, I believe, one of the American Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had 2 FBS
and Houston
conference
almost did
champions.
it again this year.
2, if it weren't for Cincinnati, they would have done it.
Yep.
But Baylor wins the Big 12 and UTSA wins Conference USA. So a big check mark for me. We nailed it.
How
Good
about
job.
that?
Well done, Greg.
Okay.
What was our next one?
Enough. He got another one.
Whoa!
We're on a heater. 2 blue checks in a row, and that's because at least one Texas team, will win a national championship. And honestly, for the past however many years, this is a pretty safe bet almost with Mary Hardin Baylor taking in and winning Division III there.
Yep, I nailed the Mary Hardin Baylor game.
Yep.
Mary
if you know, you know.
National championship. I mean, that was really there were a couple of candidates. Sam Houston, of course, was the defending champions in FCS, so they had a shot to get there. There's always
we put A&M on the cover and said they could have at least made the playoffs.
They could have been in the mix.
Wilder things could have happened.
Division, but really the safest pick here would have been Mary Hardin Baylor in Division III. And sure enough, they made me look smart, made me look like I know what I'm talking about. Mary Hardin Baylor won the Division III national championship.
And they will have a new head coach this year, right?
They will, yes. Yeah. Coach Fred retired. So yes, we've got big dudes down there at Mary Hardin Baylor, but I nailed this one.
Always bet on the crew.
Fantastic. Good job, Greg. All right, what's next?
2 more. Bring!
Whoa!
Gosh darn it, he's gotten 3 in a row. There will be 3 new FBS coaches in Texas in 2022, and you hit the nail on the head.
This is my best pull.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. As you didn't say at least 3. You just said there will be 3. Texas Tech hires Joey McGuire, and then we have the flip-flop here of SMU head coach going to TCU and Sonny Dykes, and then Rhett Lashley coming in from Miami.
Now here's the thing. Tech, I think I would need to go back and listen to it, but
we
saw the writing on the wall. That it might have been a tough year or like a disappointing year for Matt Wells would end up him leaving.
Well, and especially when we said that him or Dana Holgerson could have, when they played in the first week, they were like, that kind of decides the rest of the year, it feels like, for those 2 teams.
Holgerson was on the hot seat, but we thought one of those 2.
Yep.
Right? And we ended up being wrong. Luttrell was the one that I was like, I think that one's going to be The other ones were like Spavital, maybe if
Yep.
they were getting a little bit tired of Spavital.
Yep.
Things
which could be a big year is a big year for both of those, Luttrell and Spav.
But then what ends up happening is Gary Patterson retires. You can never really predict that, but Gary Patterson ends up retiring. They hire Sonny Dykes, which opens up another spot with Rhett Lashley getting.
Yeah, of course you nail this on the 1 year that the longest tenured head coach in Texas
by the way,
decides to retire.
And by the way, let's also throw out there that UTEP. I had an opportunity with UTEP too. That if they didn't have a break, if they didn't have the year they did, Dana Dimmel could have been on the hot seat.
Could have been. Yeah, I don't think he would have gotten done, but it would have been.
Maybe.
It would have been up for consideration.
It would have been in the mix. But yeah, how about that?
Well, and if they wouldn't have hired Sonny Dykes and would have hired someone else from in-state, I guess that still would have been through. No, because he could have still been at SMU.
Absolutely.
That's funny, man. You did.
Right. So there you go. 3 new FBS coaches in Texas in 2022. The good times just keep on rolling, Pickle. There's nothing that can bring me down, especially not our 5th. Oh my.
There we go. Texas A&M will make the college football playoffs. That is very much not true. They finished 8-4 and unranked after what felt like high hopes to start off the year, and then 2 weeks in, Haynes King got hurt, and then everything just crumbled.
It just all kind of spiraled from there. Yeah, A&M did not make the college football playoff.
But they beat Alabama.
They beat Alabama. They beat Alabama. I mean, in a lot of ways, I've mentioned this to other people, but it's a little bit odd that we're talking about the A&M the season in 2021 the way that we are, because this was a year that they were supposed to do big things. They were supposed to be a national title contender. I believe they started the year like ranked number 5 or number 6 or something like that.
We obviously had high hopes for the
defense.
defense.
They lose to, let's see if I can get the losses. They lost to both Mississippi schools. They lost to Arkansas and they lost to LSU.
Yes, that is correct.
And so they go
headless LSU
they go 8-4 with a win over Alabama, but they beat Alabama, and they have the number 1 recruiting class in the nation. And so nobody's really talking about what a real huge disappointment 2021 was, because there's all these other good things that have happened at A&M. So it's a little bit odd that the other things that they've done, and certainly beating Alabama helps.
That and then signing what will then end up being the number 1 class, which obviously does not go into effect until next year. But that was a very good, hey, look, shiny object. Forget about last year.
For sure, yeah. I think at a lot of other programs, we'd be talking about what a big disappointment 2021 was. But at A&M, there's at least enough good things going on that they were able to kind of avoid that conversation, at least for now. But anyway, I did miss that one. So I went 3-2 on my college football predictions. I went 2-3 on my high school football predictions.
So you're a college football expert now.
With 5-5.
That's it. We're gonna have to tell Craven.
I went 5-5 on bold predictions. I think that's pretty good. I think that's
sounds pretty average.
Well done, me. Well, and guess what? We're gonna do later. We're gonna go back to the fields,
and we're gonna make more predictions.
Grab another seed. Grab another segment seed. Just plant those things. Get out the fertilizer.
You don't want me planting anything right now. It is hot outside.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.